welcome to our show. You know, for years we've talked about some of the challenges that we face here in Southern Nevada with education. But one of the best success stories that we have is the law school at UNLV. And with me is, and it's my pleasure, we have a new dean, Dan Hamilton, who has, you know, this is your first semester on the job, right?
That's right.
Just coming in. How does that work? How does a law school acquire a new dean?
Well, it's a national search, and they put out a call for applications, basically, and you throw your hat into the ring, and that begins a very rigorous process where you are screened at various points, and then you're brought to campus, and you're interviewed by various groups, and that happens several times, and then at the end of the day, the phone rings.
What interests you about Las Vegas, and why did you throw your hat into the ring?
So, UNLV Law School has really, as you say, achieved a great deal in a short period of time. It is really one of the success stories in legal education in the last 20 years. And 15 years ago, people made a bet. People made a decision to try and bring this law school to Las Vegas and to the state. And it's really paid off. It's really paid off dramatically. And that's known in the legal community. So out there in the law school world, it's known as a place with dynamic faculty, great students, and engaged alumni, and a real place within the community. So we're the law school for the state. And that's a structural advantage, meaning we are the one and only law school in the state, and we serve the whole state. And this kind of combination of factors makes it a very attractive place to be.
Previous to your job here, you were working in at Chicago, at Kent, or?
Yeah, I was at Chicago Kent College of Law for several years. And then I went to University of Illinois College of Law for several more years, where I was most recently the associate dean. And from that position, I
Do you have to be an attorney to be a law school dean?
Usually, I would say almost always. Not always. So there are, in law schools now, some PhDs who don't have JDs. So at Illinois, right where I come from, there are 3 non-JDs on the faculty who are economics PhDs, interestingly. So they could be deans, but it's still very rare.
What was it that motivated you to go into the academic world instead of the private world?
So I grew up in Washington, D.C. I grew up in sort of a policy environment with my parents, who were both Camelot kids and came to D.C. to work in the Kennedy administration. And I thought about that path for a long time. But I taught high school, actually, after college. And that experience of teaching and working with students really got me thinking about academia as a career. And then I went to get a PhD, and once you're on that track, you're on that track, right? Researching, writing, teaching.
Right.
So.
And are you still able to do some of those things, or it's all administrative work now?
We'll see.
Okay.
Some of the deans I admire most are able to write while they're a dean and also teach. And I'm not teaching this year, but I'll be teaching in the future because I do think first off, it's fun. It's one of the fun parts of the job. It's very gratifying to work with the great young students we have at UNLV, but also I think it helps you stay connected to where they are and to be more responsive to what law students are experiencing today.
One of the advantages of being the dean is that if you choose to teach, you
Yeah.
could teach probably any class you wanted to. What would that be?
I'd have to talk to my associate dean. I have to get his permission. I'm a legal historian by training, so I love teaching I'd write about the Civil War, and it would probably be a small seminar on legal history around the Civil War.
Really?
Having said that, the big 1L, the first year courses, the big 1L courses, there's nothing like them. Walking in on the first day of their law school experience, so maybe property. It's a lot of grading. It's a lot of work. And I'm not afraid of that work, but it's a very serious undertaking to teach a big 1L class. So I'd have to decide between a seminar or a big course.
Oh, maybe you could. Did you like the Lincoln movie?
I did like the Lincoln movie. I thought it was thoughtful. I thought Daniel Day-Lewis really captured some of the ambiguities and complexities of the man.
Right.
He wasn't just on a pedestal. He was a flesh and blood human being.
Right. As we sure Lincoln was.
Yes.
Yeah.
As we find out
wasn't
more.
perfect.
No. And was a political animal and needed to work with politicians to be a politician to get things done.
Yeah. Which is, you know, look, it's a challenge we have everywhere, in our government, in our law school, in our community, everywhere. Let's talk a little bit about the law school. You know, the number one question that I get, been a lawyer here for 36 years, and number one question I get is, since the formation of the law school, is, hey, how do I get into UNLV law school? I mean, I have people all the time
I'm
asking
glad
me,
that's the
"Hey,"
question you get.
yeah, it's amazing. What do I tell people?
Do as well as you can in college in terms of your grade point average and in terms of developing a broad skill set, particularly writing. Writing will help you more than anything else get into law school and succeed in law school. We can't, I'm afraid, underestimate the importance of the law school admissions test, the LSAT, and take these prep courses are now very sophisticated. So the numbers matter, credentials matter. I can't say they don't. I can say that we're always interested in having an interesting class. So people from different kinds of backgrounds and people who have interesting stories and people who really make a case that this is the law school for them, so that they've thought about why UNLV is right for them and can actually tell us why they think they're a good fit. So we're not just one of 20 schools they're applying to, we're a school that they've really thought about.
Do you know when an applicant applies how many other schools they've applied to?
No, but we can tell from the essay if they're just churning them out, right? If they're just checking a box. You can really tell in a student's application if they've thought about your school and why that school is right for them.
How about extracurricular activities?
Oh, sure.
Sports, hobbies?
Oh, sure. Any kind of, yes, leadership positions are important. And being a whole engaged person is important. So we don't just want to, we do need to focus on the test, but we don't want to just focus on the test. And that's kind of experience is good evidence that they're a well-rounded, self-starting, disciplined student.
And is it an advantage to come from UNLV?
I wouldn't say, I would say that we are the state's law school and that we try to make sure we attract as many of the best students from Nevada as we can. So both UNLV, University of Nevada, Reno, Southern Nevada, we are looking to those schools to try and attract the very best students we can.
Yeah, I saw that 3/4 of our students come from Nevada currently.
That's right. That's right.
And is that typical of a state school?
I would say that is typical of most state schools. And it's always a tricky question about what is the sweet spot, because we both want to be a regional player and recruit in California and Arizona and Utah and New Mexico, but also make sure that we fulfill our mandate of being the state's law school. So that number might go up a little, might go down a little, but it will certainly be, for the foreseeable future, as it should be, I think, a majority Nevada population at the law school.
And what is the population? How many students do we have at the law school?
Well, we're figuring that out right now. We were delighted to welcome our first-year class this week on Monday. So we're probably in the 400 student range total. And we're delighted to welcome a number of transfers this year, and anywhere from 120 to 140, depending on the year, is our incoming class.
And is there a sweet spot that we're striving to? Is 400 the number, or you look to be larger?
I would say this is a time when law schools are figuring out the size of their class. So nationwide, the industry is undergoing a period of flux where nationally applications are declining. And so we're trying to figure out in that marketplace how big is our law school going to be. And we're no different from any other school in that respect. We're trying to figure out going forward what the right size is. And I would say if we stick in the 120 to 140 range, that's where we're happy being.
Now, a lot of viewers watching us will be saying, well, why do we need more lawyers? We've got plenty.
Well, we need good lawyers, right? We need lawyers that will serve the community and do honor to their profession, right? And the state of Nevada is better for having this law school here and for producing top quality, top flight lawyers who then go on, in my opinion, to serve the community, right? And the law school does do a great deal to serve the people in the community, and the lawyers do. We have clinical programs that are first rate and that are nationally recognized.
For instance, what is it?
Oh, we've got a great kids court clinic that was created to help victims of abuse and neglect, and we work with, I think, as many as 800 children to help familiarize them with what a courtroom looks like and how the procedures will unfold. We have an immigration clinic that does great work. We have an appellate advocacy clinic where students can go into courts and argue. We have a nationally recognized legal writing program. If you go around town, one of the first things that employers say to you is, Boyd students can write. Boyd students hit the ground with a writing ability that really stands out. And that's, I submit, good for the bar, right?
Oh, yes.
And we also have a nationally recognized Saltman Center on dispute resolution. Our community service program also has partnerships with other entities around the city. So we worked just this last weekend on Community Law Day, where we partner with the Southern Nevada Legal Aid Office and Nevada Legal Services to provide free legal advice to 100 people who came to the law school to meet with lawyers and meet with law students and actually talk over their legal issues. So we are working hard to serve people in the community and to serve the bar.
Yeah. And also I noticed that we have a lot of professors that are available to opine on issues in the community that are very helpful. I mean, sometimes, and it's almost like an additional check and balance sometimes, I've noticed. It's, you know, you get another opinion and from oftentimes an expert on constitutional law or some other issue that affects our community, and it's right here, somebody lives in their community that has that kind of expertise, and, not a dog in the fight.
Right. I mean, the faculty is nationally recognized. This is something where Dick Morgan, the founding dean, Richard Morgan, Dick Morgan, and John White and Nancy Rappaport built a nationally recognized faculty that is at the cutting edge of all kinds of research. We have conferences that bring people from around the country and around the world. We have, as you say, professors who go out and do continuing legal education courses and appear on shows like this and are in the newspaper all the time.
Right.
So we're very, very proud of our faculty.
Now, nationally, I've read that the incoming students are more female than male. Is that true at UNLV?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And
why do you think that is?
I think that that's true at every level of education now nationwide, that if you look at who's going on to professional schools across the board, I won't say across the board, but in many fields, it is majority female. And that's interesting for the law schools, where we've had a very hard time hitting that 50-50 number, that 50-50 ratio between men and women. We're very close to that now at UNLV, and we're very proud of that, right? Because we want to be a diverse and inclusive place, and so we're just about there.
Do you anticipate that will change the nature of law eventually, having this many women attorneys compared to what used to be the good old boy kind of system?
That's a very good question. So people have written about that. Lanny Guinier at Harvard Law School has a very interesting book called Becoming Gentlemen. And that's about a professor who walked into class every morning and said, "Good morning, gentlemen." And that was a way for the prof of honoring the students. But for the women in the class, that was distancing, right?
Yes.
So the thing was, the whole enterprise, with its sort of hard-edged, tough, you know, very almost combative question and answer style, is fading. And I do think that that's a good thing, and I think that is attributable to having, to some extent, to having more gender diversity in the classroom. So Guinier makes the argument that it will and has made a difference, and I think she does make a good case. It might lead to different kinds of problem-solving techniques. You don't want to paint with too broad a brush, but I think it has, on the whole, made a difference.
Yeah, I mean, the judiciary in Southern Nevada is, you know, significantly different looking than it was when I first started practicing law. We had, I think, one female. Well, I remember when we had our first female judge here. And then, you know, when you watch television, you watch these trials, it seems like there's a lot of women judges that are trying these, you know, high-profile cases around the country.
Yeah. And I think that we've worked very hard to have all kinds of different people at our law school. And this is one area where I'm very proud of our admissions department for creating this kind of balance.
What about the cost? You know, President Obama keeps talking about student loans and the cost of education, and there was a big fight in Congress about, you know, capping the interest rates on those costs. Are we stabilizing the cost of a law school education, or is it, you know, is it appreciating the cost appreciating?
Well, first off, I'll make a plug for UNLV and say
Okay.
we do have a very attractive, competitive price point, and that's important to us. We want to remain accessible. That's not to say it's cheap. That's to say it can be, though, as much as half as much as some of our competitors. So the market will rule in this case, if you ask me. So the applicants are more and more price sensitive, much more price sensitive than they used to be. Because as you say, they used to go to law school, I'll get a high-paying job, I'll pay off my...
Right.
Now they're much more sophisticated, and they're much more price sensitive coming in. And I think that's to the good, because I think it puts pressure on us, not to simply raise tuition because we can, but to really be very thoughtful about when and under what conditions we will raise tuition if we have to.
Right.
So this is one where we are, the applicants are voting with their feet and with their pocketbook, and we have to pay attention to that. Right.
And what is your feeling about online classes? I mean, there's, you know, a big movement now to, hey, why do we need, you know, physical facilities and buildings and classrooms? We can do this online. You know, where's the law school on this?
So we have these things, MOOCs, these massive open online courses, right?
MOOCs.
MOOCs that are spreading.
Used to be a moot, now it's a MOOC.
Now it's a MOOC, and we'll see. I mean, MOOCs have the potential to transform all kinds of education, but they haven't yet. And they are, at this point, no credit, no fee, and no one's figured out a way to actually to monetize it, right?
Right.
So I think more distance learning in law, I think some more distance learning in law schools is a good thing, but to me, only a relatively small amount. We should be doing more to reach out through technology to audiences and to speakers that we wouldn't otherwise be able to get, so that people can be talking in a classroom from anywhere in the world, which is remarkable, and students can be taking courses in Nevada, in Reno, and also at Las Vegas. So there are all sorts of upsides. If you push me, if I must admit, I'm a little bit old-fashioned on this point, which is, to my mind, nothing replaces the in-room, the in-classroom dynamic between a professor and a teacher, and between students and each other. So I think we should use the technology for all the good it can do, but not treat it as something that will transform the way we do business.
Yeah, I mean, it is a difficult balance. I have one of my daughters at UNLV. Sometimes she's in a class with 200 other students. And, you know, I often wonder, you know, what is the difference if you're in a room with 200 other students or you're in front of a computer screen by yourself? I mean, either way, it's not very personal.
Yes, I would hope that she would have a discussion section attached to that course.
And she does.
So that's good.
Yeah.
So at some point she does work into a smaller group. And that may be where technology can have the biggest impact, where we replace one big class for another. But I would hate to see it replace everything. And I don't think we're there yet. So.
Yeah, and it'd be very hard, I guess, to monitor the quality of the education when you're on internet.
That's the whole trick, is having enough support systems in place, and how do you evaluate students online? That's been one of the biggest sticking points. How do you actually test them at the end on what they know?
What's the biggest challenge? You move here from Chicago, new community, you have a family, you have to figure out who's who.
Yes.
You know, where's where,
Yes.
what's what, and at the same, personally, and at the same time, enter a new job with new players and new challenges. It's got to be, you know, very, very difficult.
It's what you sign up for, right? And the school has a very special place in the community. That's something that was clear throughout the interviewing process, and that was clear when I started the job on July 1. That the legal community, whether they went to Boyd or not, really embraces this school, and that's invaluable. So that means I can go around town and talk with people and get their ideas on how the law school can get better in various ways, and what it does well and what it needs to do more of. And I don't simply have to reach out to alums, and everyone is invested in the school. That makes that process that you described 1,000% easier because it's everyone's law school. And so there's a lot of getting to know a lot of different people, but it's been very gratifying. I must say, particularly with our alumni, one of the best parts of the job is we have 1,500 alumni now in this from Boyd, and to see the level of success they've achieved, right? To go to these law firms that have more and more Boyd grads, and to see our grads succeed in the legislature as they're doing in leadership positions, and to see them become leaders in the bar on this committee and that committee, and they serve with me on the state bar, on the board of governors of the state bar. That is just a delightful part of the job so far, is to just get to know these alums who have benefited so much and who continue to benefit us at the law school.
What would be your greatest challenge?
Well, the greatest challenge for all law schools is figuring out what this new world of diminished applications will look like, right? So,
How diminished?
nationwide,
Yeah.
anywhere between 25% to a
So you
third.
have that many less people applying to law school?
Yes, nationwide.
And why do you think that? Is that because quality of life issues, cost, too many lawyers?
I would say that there's more and more work that can be outsourced, and that is being outsourced. So forces that hit other industries are now hitting law. So what document review that a lot of young lawyers used to do can be outsourced to parts of the world. Much can be automated now.
LegalZoom.com.
LegalZoom.com,
Yeah,
right. And they're different, and the clients are much more sophisticated now about what they're being charged for. So there's this confluence of events that are making students think twice before they apply. So we have to be ever more competitive to get the same number of JD applications, and we have to think of other ways the law school can grow. So in the case of UNLV, I would be very interested in working with our partners in building out our gaming law initiatives. So gaming law is a natural in this city and in this state, and gaming law
and expanding
worldwide. And to have UNLV Law School be at the center of that, to be the place you go to get trained in gaming law is really an aspiration. So we want to be for gaming law what NYU is for tax law, right? So NYU is this famous tax program, and we have the ability to do it. We have the resources in this town, we have the lawyers in this town, and we have to figure out what that will look like, and there are various models for how it could go. But I think that's an area where the law school can grow and can meet this challenge of providing more diverse degree programs, even as we seek to ensure we get a terrific JD class.
You know, I read an article last week. I'm trying to remember. I think it was in New Republic or one of those magazines. Cover was an attorney talking about how just unfulfilled the life was of an attorney. How things in New York and these white-collar law firms, how you work years and years and years to become partners, and the firms break up, or they go bankrupt, or they split up, and and all the work you put in just doesn't pay off, and how the disappointment in the quality of life in a lot of these very large law firms has changed over the last 40 years. So, you know, the quality of life issues, and when you talk about the applications going down, it's got to be part of it.
Yeah, I think that's true. And I think that the firms competed on salary for so long that it's inevitable, and I think good thing, that they will ultimately compete on lifestyle. In other words, you want to come to this firm not because we pay you $5,000 more than your competitor, but because we've thought hard about how to actually be family friendly. And this is an area I have to say that I think UNLV Law School and Las Vegas is well suited to help address, because we have more smaller firms here. The giants from LA, Chicago, New York are here, but not dominant. And they're great members of the community, but we have lots of small to mid-sized firms in Las Vegas and in the state. And the kinds of dissatisfaction you talk about are much less prevalent there. That the smaller and more intimate a firm is in many ways, the more job satisfaction. So these giant, huge firms are not as dominant here as they are in New York and the other big cities.
You know, I know in our firm, we employ consultants that work with our staff, lawyers non-legal staff, on leadership skills and balance skills, and we have regular seminars internally and individual coaching. We do life coaching and things like that, just to try to achieve what you're talking about. Just because we are a small firm, but you know the culture of the firm is as important as the financial reward.
That's right. So you get it, right? I mean, your firm
Yes.
has made that commitment, and not only is it the right thing to do, it will, I predict, give you a market advantage, right? You'll get the kind of people who work there who value.
Yeah, because law for too long has been a win-lose thing, and there is a win-win in the practice of law and in the courts.
I completely agree. So our learning process program, which teaches legal writing, also teaches sort of lawyering, how to be a good lawyer. And
Right.
more law we're coming to realize is problem solving. It's teamwork and problem solving. It's working in groups. So the old image of the gladiators doing combat, that's less and less common. And law schools have to be, and I think we are, responsive to the way law is actually practiced today.
Right, and therefore you have this great Saltman Center there that does wonderful work on alternative dispute mediation, arbitrations, that type of thing. I want to thank you so much, Dean Hamilton, and
Thank you,
welcome to Las Vegas. And
Thank you.
I'd like to hear back from you from time to time.
Anytime.
News about the law school.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll see you next week.
Be sure to visit us online for more information about today's guests. To see past shows or even contacting us about being on the show, simply go to theedbernsteinshow.com. That's theedbernsteinshow.com.